Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Before we get going on this episode, I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com, Cody Nelson, my friend of 20 plus years. I call him the glassing guru, the optics authority. He's the optics manager at GoHunt.com. If you guys have any optics needs at all, whether it be binoculars, spotting scopes, rifle scopes, tripods, anything to do with glassing, give the glassing guru a call. You can reach Cody at 702-847-8747. That's extension 2. You can email him at optics@gohunt.com, or you can text him directly on his cell phone at 602-399-3699. Ask him any question either by text or by call. I want to thank Cody for all the work that he does with the J. Scott Outdoors podcast listeners. I also want to remind you guys it's application season. There's not a better hunting resource than the Go Hunt Insider. For a free trial, you can go to gohunt.com/JScott. You can also get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card when signing up. I want to thank KUIU.com, KUIU Ultralight Hunting. KUIU is the ultralight hunting gear that I've been wearing since 2010. Go to KUIU.com and you can order directly. It's a direct-to-consumer brand, and they have phenomenal gear there at KUIU.com. I also want to thank Phonescope.com. Use the JScott21 promo code to get 10% off on all orders. Guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I've got my friend Clay Bundy from the Arizona Strip on the line. Clay, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for calling me, Jay. Appreciate you.
Yep, I'm looking forward to having a chat. It looks like we've got the Arizona deer regulations and sheep regulations due here on June 9th, and everyone's got to apply for tags. And we're sitting here. Obviously, Arizona's in an extreme drought and severe drought. But you're a veteran up there on the Arizona Strip, and you know that even in drought years, there's still great deer around and good deer around. I'm curious your overall thoughts on how the deer will be come hunting season.
That's any man's guess.
I put you in a spot there.
Yeah, so I'm always pretty optimistic. I truly am, and I get criticized for being that way. But the conditions right now are probably could date back to 80 years. It's never been this bad. There's records of us, without 2 monsoon seasons here and no spring moisture. So we've only had 2 and 2500ths since January, 2 inches and 2500ths. And that, how water
and average would be what, Clay? Average year.
Well, we're that's 5.5 months, almost 6 months.
What would be average for that same 5.5, 6 months?
Well, on the strip, we usually have 9-10 inches.
Okay.
So
so severely down. No spring moisture, no winter moisture to speak of. Probably worse than 80 years. With that being said, if it started raining, how well do you think it would rebound? How quickly could it rebound? How much water do you need for it to, green up and be okay? Do you need obviously every inch you can get, but if it started raining, could it rebound?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the Strip is a phenomenal place. It's just amazing what a little bit of storm will do. And it stormed in a particular spot out there about a 1/4 inch a couple of weeks ago, and there's flowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you look at the records on the Strip, June or May and June are our driest months of the year.
Yep.
And June is the driest.
Right.
Okay. And so without much spring moisture to start the vegetation that deer eat, it's
puts them in a bad spot, doesn't it?
It puts them in a bad spot, especially whether it's historically it doesn't rain these 2 months, and so. But if we would get it, I'd sure take a tag. You know what I mean?
For sure. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, I mean, the conditions are what they are. We really can't do anything about them. Last year, the conditions were pretty bad, although there was some spring moisture. There still was some pretty good deer around last year. Obviously not like 19, obviously not like some of the other years, but you've been out there a long time. There's still deer. There were holdover deer that didn't get shot last year that'll be another year older. Do you still think that, let's just say we get average monsoon, just an average monsoon. Do you still think there's going to be 200-inch huntable deer on the Arizona Strip in 13A and 13B?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There'll be a handful of them. Yep.
Okay.
Maybe even more than that. There will be.
If you had max points, Clay, if you're sitting on max points, would you, and I'm sure you've already talked to a jillion hunters, would you recommend someone that's sitting on max points to either apply with the point guard, or B, not apply at all and just go for a bonus point this year?
Okay, if I was a resident with max points, I would buy a bonus point.
Okay.
If I was a non-resident with max points, I would put in.
Okay.
Because you still might be a bunch of years before you draw.
Sure. And then for all those people that don't have max points, they need to apply because they don't have much of a chance as it is. They need every opportunity to draw, and they don't need to miss a draw because there's still 200-inch deer to be killed.
Absolutely. And then you've got, the Strip, even on probably its worst year, is going to be better than most any other state.
Yeah. And any other unit in any other state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about this. What kind of forecast is the forecast for monsoonal rain? I've heard in different reports that there's a 30 or 40% chance for a higher than monsoon storm count as normal. Am I hearing that right, or have you heard the same thing?
I've heard the same thing. I haven't really heard it from the news, but I've heard it from other people that have been talking that it's supposed to be a better than average monsoon. And if you look back history-wise, it's almost like when you have terrible droughts, it's like Mother Nature, God seems to make up,
lost ground. Yeah.
In next year. So, we could get a big monsoon, which would be incredible,
So let's talk about that. Let's say that, normally doesn't rain much in June. We've history's proven that. But let's say by July 1st, 4th of July, usually we get some storms. Let's say that all of a sudden we have a better than normal monsoon, and it's, steady and every couple of days and getting some good storms. Do you think that the deer are in a position where if you can get some pretty good rains and let's say a little bit better than average monsoon, do you think those deer could really bounce, and do you think that all of a sudden it could be a surprising year? Is it still possible, or is the best case scenario an average year?
I think the best case is an average.
Which average on the Strip's great.
Yeah, which average on the Strip, I'll take it.
Right. Were there deer, let's get specific here, were there deer last year that, you thought would be, 240, 250, 260, 270, and I know these are crazy numbers, but were there a few of those deer that stayed alive and they were 220, 230? They didn't make 240, 250, 260, 270. Were a handful of those big giant bucks, I almost feel stupid talking about it, but every year seems like the Strip kills a 240, 250, 260 type buck. Were those bucks last year hampered, and were they 20 or 30 inches smaller? And where I'm going with that is, if they were smaller last year, what are they going to be this year?
Yes, they were smaller last year. I think you maybe probably ought to subtract 15 inches or 20 inches, like from what those numbers you're throwing out. Because there really wasn't a lot of there really wasn't anything over 250 last year.
Okay. So the 250 upper end bucks that might on another year might have pushed 260, 270.
Yeah.
There might have been a one or two around 250. If they go a full another year, so they're one more year, is it anybody's guess what those same deer might do just if we get average moisture? Or do you think just that added year they could still blow up and be, over 250? Or do you think they'd be 230 kind of like they were last year?
I think they'll be more like that.
Right.
I do. I mean, there could be a handful, or not a handful, one or two that might, that they're the right age.
Okay.
I mean, that's scary big numbers,
Yeah. I mean, it's stupid numbers, but it seems like the strip just always comes up with something that blows people's mind.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in all your prowling around here in the last couple months, do you feel like, that storm you talk about where there's, had a good little shower and, kind of some feed came and some flowers came. Do you feel like those deer are searching and are you finding the track and seeing the deer in some of the better looking country? In other words, have they found the best they can find?
Yes. I was out gathering cows on Monday and, I seen a bunch of deer and they were all, looking in pretty good health, really. I was quite surprised. And you know what is kind of crazy, but the cliff rose is actually starting to bloom a little. It's not as big as it can be on a great year, but it's, and that's why, I think about it and I get so optimistic and I really believe that great things could happen. But then I look at the condition of my cows and they're terrible shape, and so then I get feeling down, thinking, how can the deer even really do very well? But yet, one of our guys seen a pretty good deer the other day that was way out past his ears, and that, like, what?
Yeah.
Most of them are just, 6-8 inches,
Yeah.
And so I just keep jumping back and forth thinking, and yet, again, there are so many deer that, some pretty good deer that made it. That we probably had 25, 30 deer that we were thinking, man, these could blow up. And I don't know, there could be some good, there's going to be some big deer killed. I can just tell you that much, even on an average year,
Looking on this year as it is do both units look really bad, or are there portions in A that look better, portions in B that look better? I mean, is it kind of mixed, or is all of it pretty darn bad?
It's all of it's pretty bad, from clear to the south to the east. It's and I've been over a lot of it in the last month, and it's pretty bleak.
Okay.
That way.
So your advice to anybody applying is, regardless, apply with the point guard. So no matter what happens, you still have the option all the way up until your hunt, basically, to pull the plug if you need to. And I'm sure that's what you've been telling your clients that are calling you on the phone for advice is, whatever you do, apply with a point guard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you got to make sure that you haven't already used it, because
Right.
you only get one chance. And then if you're, if you're a resident at max point, I'd just
Move
definitely
on.
put a point. Yeah. Just to save that point if you need it, or point guard. Yeah.
Let's talk about predators. Probably a sore subject in a obviously all the time, but in a drought condition. Are you noticing more lion track around the waters than normal? Is it more than normal? Same? Where we sit on coyotes and lions?
I think it's just kind of about the same as predators. You right now you driving out and about, you don't really see a lot of coyotes, but yesterday when I was moving cows, I was hollering, and all of a sudden there was coyotes all around me, hollering back at me, and they're there. You just, the ones that are there now are the smart ones that have lived, and so I think there's pretty well an average amount of predators that just keep hammering,
When you look at 13A and 13B, and I recommend anybody that listens to the podcast, I've had Clay on a bunch and we've talked about a lot of this. When you look at 13A and 13B, is there one unit right now that you think is better than the other one? And I'm going to talk specifically on the archery hunt. For the archery hunt, would you rather have a 13A tag? If you had a choice, and I said I'm going to give you a tag, would you rather have a 13A archery or 13B archery? And why?
You know what? I think I would, for where the deer are that time of year, I think I would take an A tag. Just because I know of 4 or 5 pretty big deer that made it that are on 13A during the archery.
Okay, so then it sounds like when the rifle hunt comes, some of those deer, like you've told me before, some of those deer make a move. So right now you would say you would give the edge to 13A archery. I would assume for rifle, although 13A is second, so you get better dates, would you give one unit a nod on the rifle hunt more than the other?
Yeah, I would take B for the rifle for sure. Just
is that because of more opportunity, just more bucks, bigger country for more bucks?
And like I said before, some of the bucks come off A, and it just, I guess, and I may have said this before, but it goes back to when I was a young kid, hunting, and we usually hunted more on B, and it's kind of my love, it's so, but they're just more options than B. A is pretty tight area for deer because there's so much antelope country, more open country that there's not as many deer in, and so it's more congested. There's more people on top of each other during A.
Right, because there's not as much room for them to spread around because of habitat.
Yeah, right.
You mentioned antelope. That's something I was going to ask you. I'm sure it seems like every year you have antelope hunters out there. What do you, and I'm not into antelope, but I've always heard that antelope, for whatever reason, their horns, they actually do pretty good on drought years. And I don't know if you've heard that too. I don't know if you think it's a bunch of phooey or if you agree with that. What are the Antelope Situation? What are they looking like out there? How do you think that hunt will be?
Well, there's this. We don't have a lot of antelope, and we don't have the greatest genetics as some of these other places, but that they're in good shape. I've seen a bunch of them riding and stuff, and I'm not sure about whether they do better on dry feed. That doesn't make sense to me, but possibly. I don't know that much about that either. But it's a good. hunt that I love hunting antelope. It's just a fun, no pressure. I mean, you can hunt them all day long. It's not like a mule deer that lays down during the day. I mean, you can just keep hunting all day on an antelope. And we've killed some pretty big antelope up here. We've killed some buck antelope, and I mean, it's not your. I wouldn't say it's your best unit in the state. It's not even close, but it's a great hunt.
Still some good bucks around.
Yeah.
I know you do a lot of sheep hunts too, up there in that specific country. I want to ask you specifically about 13B North. What's your thoughts on 13B North? Kind of right there in your backyard. It seems as though Utah's putting quite a bit of pressure on those sheep, and it seems that the quality has dropped just a little bit in 13B North. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Utah's hunting them hard, and that line's right there and right through the middle of some of the best country, and on the south side of the gorge, 10, 15 years ago, it seemed like there was more sheep over there than on the Utah side of the gorge. But it's really, for the last 5-6 years, there's been most of the sheep are right on the border, and so they really get hammered hard.
Still one of your favorite units, though, right?
Yeah, it's a great unit. Really, it's pretty easy access, really.
Right, and they dropped the tags from 3 to 2, so they took one off, which I think will really help it, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Give them another year, they'll just keep growing. The genetics are there. I mean, they're not like the kind of sheep you hunt, but there's been some 180s killed out of there,
Let me ask you about several of the other units. So 12A, 12B West, and 13A is only available to residents with one tag. I don't really know anything about that 12A, 12B West, 13A hunt. What are your thoughts on that unit?
Well, the 13A,
then there's 13A North that has one tag as well.
Yeah, so the 13A North is the one that you want.
Okay.
So that's right on the border of Utah.
Okay.
And those deer, or those sheep right there that come out of Zion, come back and forth right there on the border.
Okay.
And there's some really good sheep there.
Okay.
That's probably the best unit up here. It's better than the gorge.
What about 13B South? There's one tag as well.
You mean 13B South or
Yeah, 13B South, there's one tag as well. And then there's 13A North that there's one tag. What about 13B South?
Well, that's a tough unit, but we've done really well there, and I quite like it. We've killed 3 or 4 sheep off there in the last 5-6 years and done pretty well.
It's one of those units that, it takes someone like you that really kind of knows it really well to do well, though. You could struggle if you just drew it and didn't have any help at all and kind of went up there. Someone could really struggle, don't you think?
Absolutely. And from looking, it's a long ways to get there to start with. I mean, it's a 3-hour drive, whichever way you go to get there, and then to camp, and and you're going to want as much help as you can get, which most sheep hunters do. But it's just a big long stretch. It's probably 25-mile long stretch of cliff there where they're on that they could be anywhere on. And so it takes quite a bit to find them there.
I know that last year you helped some guy out with some information, and he killed a really good, mid 160s type ram. And you've actually, over the years, you've actually done pretty darn good kind of mid 60s type rams in there. It's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one of those units that there's a chance that there could be a good ram slide around in there because of the fact of how hard it is to hunt, right?
Absolutely. Plus, you're really close there to the Nevada border, that Gold Butte area, and those rams can come across from Nevada there.
Right.
And then plus it's such a hard unit that it's a month and a half long instead of December. It starts November 15th, I believe.
So they give you more time in that unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you like the 13A North, 13B North, which we talked about, the Virgin Gorge. You like the 13B South. You like the 13A North, and you would guide in any one of those. You would take a hunter if you had a chance, right?
Yeah, and the 13A, just 13A. I mean, we got some decent sheep on video or on cameras over there. On deer.
Yeah. So it sounds like all of those units, you would be happy to take a hunter there and think you could do pretty well, like kind of mid 160 to maybe mid 160s with a chance of maybe a sleeper around.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you notice on dry years, do you notice it affects your sheep up there as much as, say, obviously, I think the answer is no, as the deer, because once they get kind of to the age class, once they get to 8 years old, they're not really growing that much anyway.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's some sheep up there with some age on them, though?
Yeah, maybe not so much in the gorge, but on the 13B South there is.
Yeah.
And then those sheep on the 12 or 13A North.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to kind of bring this back around on the deer. So we've got a tough year. It is what it is. We had a tough year last year. Silver lining, let's just say that, we get average rains and it is what it is. There'll be some 200-inch deer killed and, some better bucks. And but, if it's just kind of let's just call it average or below average year, silver lining moving forward, could potentially be a couple years worth of holdover bucks that maybe are around that 185, 190, 195-inch mark that maybe don't get shot, that really could blow up if you have a good winter moisture. Am I stretching and thinking that potentially there could be a couple years of holdover bucks there age-wise that get the pass, and all of a sudden they've now got 2 more years of age, and then throw in good moisture, could really blow into some big deer?
In 2022, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to look at it and say...
Oh, yeah. No. So you look at, I always look back and, 19 was so great, and it was great moisture year, at the right time. There was a lot of fawns that year. Now there's the right age to be mature bucks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that really, I always look back to that. There's going to be some big deer. I've watched it over the years, how it works. And, 2022, especially if it stays dry and then goes into, and then we have a good monsoon and have a great year next year, look out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I want it to be good this year, and I want it to start raining as soon as possible and, rebound as quickly as possible. But I'm also thinking, looking forward, that, okay, well, if this year just turns out to be average, and, let's say there was some deer that, were 3 years old last year, 4 years old last year, that, maybe on a great year they'd be deer that, someone that doesn't have the eye that you would be like, oh, I shot a 210 buck that's a 4-year-old, but maybe last year he made it through because he was only 190-inch deer, and then say this year is another not as good year, and he doesn't grow much, so let's just say he's a 190-inch type deer, but now all of a sudden he's 5 years old, 6 years old,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you get great moisture, winter moisture and monsoon. You got some deer that are 6 years old that now all of a sudden could just blow up. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the year you got the tag, right?
well, we'll see about that for sure. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think you have to look at these things. You can't control the weather. We never have been able to. There's only one person that can control that, and it's one of those things that you just got to kind of play the ball as it comes to you and do the best you can. I mean, there's only so much we can do.
Absolutely, and then you go back to this year, okay? And so you think, last year was not a good year either, but you know what? We got blessed and we killed some
Great bucks.
Deer,
Yeah.
some deer. Like I was just today over to Jeff Baird's Strip Taxidermy looking at that 41-inch deer that we killed. Holy smokes. I mean, I'd shoot him any year. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, too, that, I kind of laugh because, you and Parker are jaded in a way that, you've been around big deer your whole life. And then, Parker's, he's been running with you the last handful of years, and he's been around big deer. And just an average, even just a mediocre year, like, last year was not a great year, and you guys shot some phenomenal bucks that literally everyone listening to the podcast would shoot first opening morning, first day, first light, and be tickled pink. So, I mean, we have to put it in perspective.
Yeah, you do. And that's why I love the Strip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just gives you more than you imagine. And so some of these big old deer don't have the high score, but they got the Strip look, that just blow your mind and what you dream about, and
that's what keeps you coming back.
That is.
Of course, you never left.
That's right. I don't. I love, it's been hard with as dry as it's been. It's hard to go out and see how bad it is, but yet I still love it. It's just the neatest place. It's got the most potential of any place that I've ever been. And
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you have to take the good with the bad, and I know it's hard to say, but like you've seen the phenomenal years. You've seen the years where your cattle are fat as can be and fat and sassy and feeling good, and you've seen it when the deer are just blown up and gigantic deer, and It is what it is. And you would take some beatings like you're taking now to have one good year on the Strip. So I mean, it's one of those places that is more dynamic than anywhere else in the world, and there's no place like it, and that's why you're there. That's why you live there. That's why you hunt there, and that's what you choose. You live and die by the Strip, and I don't think you'd have it any other way. I mean, it is what it is, and you look at the deer you just saw at Jeff Baird's place, like 41-inch wide. Like, you have to pinch yourself and be like, yeah, we're getting shellacked right now, but the blessings that have been poured out are unbelievable, and we'll take it and move on. And sometimes it takes times like this, not only in your hunting career, but your business career and your personal life, to take a couple beatings to realize the blessings that you get, and
Yeah.
I think how good we all have it. So, I mean, I think that's a kind of a good lesson moving forward that I know you've learned. I don't need to tell you, but maybe someone else out there, listening.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Buddy, it's always great talking to you. I'm hoping the next time we talk is before the archery hunt, and you report in of how things have changed and how much moisture we've got and how things have greened up and blown up, and that would be just phenomenal. We'll just laugh and giggle the whole time. But even if it doesn't happen, it is what it is, and it's always great having you on the podcast. What is the best way for people that are, interested in hunting with you and putting in for the Arizona Strip? What is the best way for them to reach out to you?
So for me personally, it's best to call me at my phone number, 435-680-2991, or you can reach out Clay Bundy at hotmail.com, or on Instagram, Clay Bundy Outfitters. I'm a better talker than I am a typer, so but we do both. So I just want to put a shout out to all my guides. I've got a bunch of good guides that really help me and really work hard, and I think that's what sets us apart a little bit from other people is my guides that know the area so well. And anyway.
Well, I think they're very fortunate to have you be their mentor and be able to show them around. And I know that a successful operation starts, I believe, from the top down, and they learn through leadership. And I know that your guides are phenomenal, but they learn a lot from you, and they take a lot of direction from you. And they've probably all are where they're at because of you. So I do know you have some phenomenal guides, and I'm just glad you're able to kind of mentor those young guys and bring them up to be the next generation so they can do it with other people. So Clay, it's always fantastic having you on the podcast, and like I said, let's hope it starts raining, and we know the good Lord will take care of us either way. So
for sure.
we'll move forward, and we'll be tickled pink with the blessings we have. It's great having you on the podcast. Enjoy your summer. I always appreciate your friendship. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you calling me.
All right, buddy. God bless.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.